Hosting the Olympics isn't cheap. Cities usually spend $50 million to $150 million on an Olympic bid, and the cost to host the Games is significantly higher. We're talking tens of billions of dollars. It wasn't always this way. Hosting the Olympics used to be affordable, but today, countries are taking a huge gamble when they host the Games. Sometimes the Olympics are profitable, but losing money is just as likely. Here's a look at the cost of the Olympic Games through history. Let's travel all the way back to 1896 and take a look at the first Olympic Games. Surprisingly, the first modern Olympics only cost $11 million adjusted for inflation. 241 athletes from 14 nations descended upon Athens, Greece to compete for glory. Why Athens? Well, it was the perfect city for the first modern Olympics because the ancient Greeks founded the Olympics way back in 776 BCE. Ancient Olympians competed to honor Zeus, but the athletes at the 1896 Games competed for silver and copper medals. You heard that right, there were no gold medals. First-place competitors received silver, and second-place athletes received copper. The current gold, silver, bronze system was not implemented until the 1904 Games, but the IOC has retroactively changed the medal table for the 1896 Games to match the current system. Fast forward to the 1964 Tokyo Summer Olympics. The 64 Games were also quite affordable, as long as you don't count the billions of dollars of infrastructure projects Japan completed in preparation for the Games. Japan spent $318 million adjusted for inflation to host the Games, but the price tag including infrastructure projects totaled $16.6 billion adjusted for inflation. The biggest cost was undoubtedly the Tokaido Shinkansen. The high-speed rail line connecting Tokyo to Osaka began service just 9 days before the start of the Olympics. Haneda Airport and the Port of Tokyo were also modernized, and the massive infrastructure upgrade ushered in a new era for Japan. By the 1990s, Olympic costs were spiraling out of control. The 1992 Albertville Winter Olympic Games and the 1992 Barcelona Summer Olympics both went significantly over budget, but the outcomes were very different. The Barcelona Olympics cost $10.9 billion adjusted for inflation and went 266% over budget. But they jump-started Spain's economy. The Games created a lot of permanent jobs, and Barcelona's unemployment rate dropped from an all-time high of 127,774 in 1986 to a low of 60,885 in 1992. Officials spent an inflation-adjusted $14.2 billion on infrastructure improvements leading up to the Games. Montjuic Stadium was refurbished, a modern marina was built, and the city created 3 kilometers of beachfront by demolishing industrial buildings. The Albertville Games, which cost $2 billion adjusted for inflation and went 137% over budget, were a financial boondoggle. The Games lost $56.8 million. Luckily, the French central government stepped in and paid for 75% of the loss. There was no boost in tourism for Albertville, and many other cities in the region suffered a similar fate. By the aughts, Olympic costs reached astronomical levels. The 2008 Beijing Summer Olympics were the most expensive summer games ever, with an inflation-adjusted cost of $54.5 billion. Direct costs totaled $7.6 billion adjusted for inflation, but the 31 Olympic venues that China built in Beijing resulted in a much higher price tag. The 91,000-seat Beijing National Stadium, better known as the Bird's Nest, cost $428 million, and the Beijing subway was doubled in capacity and length in preparation for the Games. The Games were a financial and logistical success. The Olympics ran smoothly and turned a $16 million profit. IOC officials were impressed, and Beijing is set to host the Winter Olympics next year, making it the only city to host both Summer and Winter Olympics. So, which Olympics were the costliest in history? That would be the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics, which cost $57.5 billion adjusted for inflation. Russia originally planned to spend just $12 billion, but the Games ended up costing more than all previous Winter Olympics combined. Despite going significantly over budget, the Games were profitable, and Sochi has seen increased tourism in the last 7 years. One of the largest costs associated with the Sochi Olympics was the construction of the Bolshoy Ice Dome. The $300 million hockey arena was a great investment because it's now home to the KHL team HC Sochi. Delaying the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics to 2021 has proven to be very costly. The games were originally supposed to cost $7.3 billion, but the Japanese government revised the budget to $12.6 billion in 2019. Now, the Olympics are expected to cost between $22.3 and $28 billion. Taxpayers across Japan will be footing a huge bill. That's it, folks. Thanks for watching.